The twin suns of Zarian 7 cast harsh shadows across the abandoned mining settlement as Marcus Chen tightened the final seal on the atmospheric processor. 3 years of solitude had taught him that survival meant routine, and routine meant checking every system twice. The skeletal remains of extraction towers jutted from the red earth like ancient monuments to corporate greed, their silence broken only by the whisper of recycled air. Through his modest shelter, Marcus had chosen isolation after the evacuation. Unable to face another crowded transport ship filled with strangers' conversations about loss, here, among the ghosts of abandoned dreams, he found a different kind of peace. His hydroponics lab hummed quietly in the converted storage facility, producing enough protein-rich crops to sustain one person indefinitely. The work gave his hands purpose while his mind gradually healed from memories he refused to name. The motion sensors triggered just as the larger sun touched the horizon. Marcus froze, his weathered hand still gripping the plasma wrench. In 3 years, nothing larger than a dust mite had approached his perimeter. He moved carefully to the observation deck, peering through reinforced transparisteel at the approaching figures. 2 shapes moved across the wasteland with the desperate, a stumbling gait of the starving. The taller figure supported a smaller one, both clearly exhausted. As they drew closer, Marcus could make out their features through his scope. The adult was female, her skin bearing the distinctive azure tint and silver markings of the Altarian species. Her clothes hung in tatters, and even from a distance, he could see the sharp angles of malnutrition. The child she carried appeared. Barely conscious, Marcus felt his chest tighten as they collapsed just outside his perimeter fence. The woman struggled to her feet, lifting the child with trembling arms. When she looked up at his shelter, her large, dark eyes held a desperate calculation that made his stomach turn. He'd seen that look before. During the colony's final chaotic months, she spoke in accented standard, her voice carrying across the still air. "Human, I know you're watching. I have nothing left but myself." Her words cracked with exhaustion. "One night with me, whatever you want. Just give my daughter food, please." Marcus set down the wrench with deliberate care. His throat felt dry as sand as he watched the woman sway on her feet, still clutching the unconscious child. The offer hung in the air between them like a toxic cloud, born of desperation so complete it made his heart ache. He'd heard similar propositions in the colony's dying days, when fear stripped away dignity and left only survival's raw mathematics. But something in her posture told him this wasn't manipulation or trap. This was a mother who had exhausted every other option, reduced to offering her body as currency for her child's life. The weight of her desperation settled on his shoulders like a familiar burden. Marcus activated the external speakers, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Ma'am, you don't need to trade anything. Come inside. Both of you." The woman stared at the shelter as if she hadn't heard correctly. Her grip on the child tightened protectively, confusion replacing the hard resignation in her expression. Marcus could see her mind working, trying to understand the trap, the hidden price he must surely demand. "No conditions," he added gently. "Just come in from the cold." Unexpected kindness, the woman's era. She'd whispered her name like a prayer, sat rigid in the corner of Marcus's living space. Her daughter Kaya finally sleeping peacefully on the medical cot. 2 days had passed since their arrival, and Zara still watched Marcus with the wary intensity of a cornered predator. Every kindness he offered was met with suspicion, every gentle gesture analyzed for hidden motives. Marcus understood. He'd learned patience during his years of solitude, and Zara's distrust spoke of traumas that demanded time to heal. He moved carefully around his modest home, never approaching too quickly, always announcing his intentions before reaching for supplies or adjusting equipment near where they rested. "The fever broke this morning," he reported quietly, checking the readings on Kaya's vital monitor.
"Ow."
"Her blood chemistry is stabilizing. It's another few days of proper nutrition, and she'll be running around like any 8-year-old should." Zara's silver-marked forehead creased with an emotion Marcus couldn't quite identify. Relief, certainly, but something deeper. In the camps, children who fell sick like this, She didn't finish the sentence, but her meaning was clear enough. Marcus busied himself preparing another nutrient broth, giving Zara space to process her emotions. The camps she referenced had been mentioned in refugee reports labor facilities, where desperate families were worked until they died or escaped. The fact that she and Kaya had survived long enough to reach his sanctuary suggested reserves of strength he could only imagine. Why? Zara asked suddenly, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of life support systems. Why help us without asking for payment? Humans in the camps always wanted something in return. Marcus considered his response carefully as he stirred the warming broth. How could he explain the crushing loneliness that had driven him to this abandoned world? How could he describe the way her desperate offer had shattered something inside? Him he thought was already broken beyond repair? Someone helped me once, he said finally. When I had nothing left to bargain with, she didn't ask for anything in return either. He paused, lost in a memory that still carried both pain and gratitude. I never got the chance to repay that kindness. Maybe this is how it works. We pass it forward instead of back. Zara studied his face with the intense focus of someone who'd learned to read deception in a glance. Whatever she saw there seemed to satisfy some internal test because her rigid posture softened almost imperceptibly. Kaya spoke yesterday, she said quietly, glancing toward her sleeping daughter. First words in 3 months. She asked if the kind human had any books. Marcus felt warmth spread through his chest. He'd noticed the child's silence, the way she seemed to exist in a protective shell of quiet observation. I have a few data. Tablets with stories. Educational programs, too, if she's interested in learning. For the first time since their arrival, Zara smiled. It transformed her entire face, revealing the beauty that malnutrition and fear had masked. She loves stories. Before the camps, I used to tell her tales about brave explorers in distant worlds where families could live in peace. Maybe she'll explore those worlds herself someday, Marcus suggested gently. Zara's smile faltered slightly, reality reasserting itself. People like us don't get happy endings. We just survive from one day to the next and hope it's enough. Wanted to argue, to promise her that safety and happiness were possible, but he understood that such promises would sound hollow to someone who'd learned not to trust in futures beyond tomorrow. Instead, he simply continued, preparing the broth, letting his actions speak what words couldn't yet convey. As evening approached, and Kaya stirred awake, Marcus watched Zara transform into the gentle, nurturing mother she was beneath the protective armor of mistrust. Her voice grew soft as she helped her daughter eat, her touch infinitely tender as she smoothed Kaya's silvery hair. In those moments, Marcus glimpsed the woman she'd been before desperation carved away her ability to trust, and he found himself hoping he might help her rediscover that person again. The third week brought an unexpected rhythm to their shared existence. Kaya had recovered enough to explore the shelter's safe areas, her curiosity gradually overcoming months of learned caution. Marcus often found her crouched beside the hydroponic gardens, watching seedlings push through nutrient gel with the wonder of a child who'd forgotten that growing things were possible. Zara proved invaluable in maintaining their small sanctuary. Her technical background revealed in careful fragments over evening conversations included atmospheric systems and power distribution. She worked alongside Marcus during the day, their hands occasionally brushing as they reached for the same tool or component. Each accidental touch sent electricity through Marcus's nervous system, though he was careful not to let his growing attraction show. The condensation recycler is operating at 60% efficiency, Zara reported, wiping grease from her azure fingers. They'd been working in the cramped utility space, their bodies necessarily closed in the confined area. The primary heat exchanger needs replacement within a month or we'll start losing water. Marcus nodded, trying to ignore how her proximity made concentrating difficult. I have spare components in storage bay 7. We can handle the swap tomorrow. He paused, realizing what he'd assumed. Unless you're planning to move on soon. Zara's hands stilled on the diagnostic panel. The question hung between them like a bridge neither was certain they should cross. Where would we go? She asked finally. The nearest settlement is controlled by the same syndicate that owns the labor camps. They'd scan our biometrics and send us back within hours. Then stay, Marcus said, the words emerging with more intensity than he'd intended. Stay as long as you want. This place is big enough for all of us. Something shifted in Zara's expression, a cautious hope she was afraid to acknowledge fully. You'd want that to refugees disrupting your solitude? Marcus found himself stepping closer, drawn by an impulse he couldn't quite name. Zara, these past weeks, I hadn't realized how empty this place felt until you and Kaya brought life back into it. You're not disrupting anything. You're completing something I didn't know was broken. The confession surprised them both. Zara's dark eyes searched his face, looking for deception or hidden agenda. Instead, she found only sincerity and a longing that matched her own growing feelings. I dream about the camps sometimes, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the recycler's hum. I wake up expecting to be back there, expecting this to be just another cruel dream. But then I hear Kaya laughing, and I smell your coffee brewing, and I remember that kindness actually exists. Marcus reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she needed to.
Ow.
When she didn't retreat, he gently cupped her face in his calloused hand. Her skin was impossibly soft, warm with the faint luminescence that made her species so striking. This isn't a dream, he murmured, and you're safe here, both of you. Zara leaned into his touch, her eyes closing as if savoring the gentle contact. I haven't felt safe in so long. I'd forgotten what it was supposed to feel like. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility and the growing recognition of mutual attraction. When Zara opened her eyes again, Marcus saw something new. They're not just trust, but desire. She rose on her toes, bringing her face closer to his. Their first kiss was tentative, exploratory. Marcus tasted the salt of tears he hadn't noticed. Her shedding felt the tremor in her lips as years of defensive walls began to crumble. When they broke apart, Zara rested her forehead against his, her breath warm against his skin. I don't know how to do this, she admitted quietly. How to want something for myself instead of just surviving. Right. Then we'll figure it out together. No rush, no pressure, just ... together. From the main living area, they heard Kaya's delighted laughter as she discovered a new educational program on the data tablet. The sound seemed to seal something between them. Just the promise of romance, but the possibility of family, of building something beautiful from the ashes of their respective pasts. Growing. Bonds the morning sun streamed through the shelters. Reinforced windows as Marcus woke to an unfamiliar warmth against his side. Zara had migrated closer during the night, her arm draped across his chest, her face peaceful in sleep. They'd been sharing the main sleeping area for 2 weeks now, though intimacy had developed slowly, built on trust rather than desperation. Marcus carefully extracted himself without waking her, padding quietly to the kitchen area where Kaya sat at the small table, already dressed and working on mathematical equations he'd given her the previous day. Her progress astounded him clearly. Her mother's intelligence had been inherited in full measure. Good morning, little scholar, he whispered, ruffling her silvery hair. Kaya beamed up at him, no longer the silent, terrified child who'd arrived months ago. Her transformation paralleled her mother's gradual emergence from survival mode into something resembling happiness. Marcus, look. Kaya held up her tablet, showing a complex solution she'd worked out independently. I figured out how to calculate the water recycling efficiency for different atmospheric pressures. Impressive, Marcus said, genuinely amazed. Your mother will be proud. Will you teach me about the hydroponic systems next? Kaya asked eagerly. I want to help grow food like you and Mama do. The casual use of Mama instead of the more formal mother struck Marcus as significant. Kaya was healing, allowing herself to be a child again instead of a miniature adult, focused solely on survival. Her recovery gave him hope for Zara's continued progress as well. As if summoned by his thoughts, Zara emerged from the sleeping area. Her hair tousled and wearing one of his shirts over her undergarments. The sight made Marcus's pulse quicken. She looked beautiful and natural in his clothes, as if she truly belonged in his space. What are my 2 favorite people discussing so early? She asked, moving to kiss the top of Kaya's head before approaching. Marcus rose on her toes to brush her lips against his cheek, a gesture that had become their morning ritual. Kaya wants to learn hydroponics, Marcus reported, savoring the simple domesticity of the moment. I thought we could start with seed propagation techniques. Zara's expression grew thoughtful. She's getting restless, cooped up in here. Maybe it's time she learned more about maintaining our home. Our home. The phrase sent warmth through Marcus's chest. Somewhere along the way, his solitary refuge had transformed into their shared sanctuary, complete with the rhythms and compromises of family life. Later that afternoon, as they worked together in the garden bay, Marcus found himself watching Zara more than the seedlings they were transplanting. Her concentration was absolute, her movements precise and economical. When she caught him staring, she raised an eyebrow with a playful smile. See something interesting? She teased, a streak of nutrient gel decorating her cheek. Very interesting, Marcus admitted, reaching out to wipe away the smudge. His thumb lingered on her skin, tracing the delicate silver patterns that marked her as Altarian. Zara, I need to tell you something. Her expression grew serious, reading the weight in his voice. What is it? Falling in love with you, he said simply. With both of you, really? This life we're building together? It's everything I didn't know I needed. Zara set down her transplanting tool, turning to face him fully. Her dark eyes shimmered with emotion. She paused, struggling with words. After everything that was done to me, I thought love was just another word for ownership. But what you've given us freedom to choose, space to heal, patience while we learn to trust again, this feels different. This feels real. She moved. Closer, her hands coming up to frame his face. I love you too. And not because you saved us, but because of who you are. Because you see us as people worth saving, not just objects to be pitied or used. Their kiss was deeper this time, charged with acknowledgement of feelings that had been growing for weeks. When they broke apart, Kaya's voice piped up from across the garden bay. Does this mean you're going to be my papa now? Marcus and Zara looked at each other, then at the hopeful child watching them with innocent curiosity. The question hung in the air, loaded with implications for their future together. Would you like that? Marcus asked gently, crouching to meet Kaya at eye level. Kaya nodded vigorously. Mama smiles more when you're around, and you make the best pancakes in the galaxy. Marcus laughed, pulling the child into a hug as Zara joined them, wrapping her arms around both of them. In that moment, surrounded by growing things in the shelter they'd built together, Marcus understood that his years of solitude had prepared him for this, not just to survive alone, but to appreciate the profound gift of chosen family. The alarm system's harsh wail shattered the peaceful morning routine 6 months after Zara and Kaya's arrival. Marcus bolted upright from the shared bed, his hand automatically reaching for the pulse rifle mounted on the wall. Beside him, Zara was already moving, her survival instincts still sharp despite months of safety. Perimeter breach, Sector 4. Marcus read from the diagnostic display, his blood running cold. 3 vehicles, military configuration. Zara's face went pale as she pulled on her work clothes with practiced efficiency. They found us, she whispered, her voice tight with familiar terror. The Syndicate. They've come to take us back. From the main room came Kaya's frightened cry. Both adults moved immediately to comfort the child, who had learned to associate alarms with danger and separation. Marcus scooped her up while scanning the external monitors, counting the approaching hover vehicles that kicked up clouds of red dust in their wake. Enforcement squad, Zara identified grimly, studying the unmarked. But clearly military vehicles, probably tracking our biometric signatures from orbit. I should have known they wouldn't just let valuable assets disappear. Marcus felt rage building in his chest, hot and protective. After months of watching Zara and Kaya heal from their trauma, the thought of anyone dragging them back to that nightmare filled him with murderous fury. They're not taking you anywhere, he said firmly. This is our home, and we defend what's ours. Zara stared at him, surprise replacing fear in her expression. Marcus, You don't understand. These aren't just bounty hunters. The syndicate has legal claims on our contracts. If you resist, they'll classify you as harboring stolen property. Let them try, Marcus growled, moving to the weapons locker. Years of solitary preparation had left him well equipped for various emergencies, including hostile visitors. Kaya, sweetheart, I need you to go to the safe room we showed you, remember? Take your tablet and stay quiet until Mama or I come get you. The child nodded bravely, though her lower lip trembled. She'd been through too much to completely dissolve into panic, but the familiar terror was creeping back into her eyes. Zara knelt to hug her daughter fiercely. Listen to Marcus, she whispered against Kaya's hair. We're not going anywhere without you. We're a family now, and families stick together. As Kaya disappeared into the reinforced interior chamber, Marcus and Zara worked with grim efficiency to secure their home. The shelter's defensive systems weren't military-grade, but they included some unpleasant surprises Marcus had installed during his paranoid early years of isolation. External speakers active, Marcus announced as the hover vehicles settled into a perimeter around their sanctuary. Armed figures in enforcement armor emerged, their movements professional and coordinated. The lead figure activated a voice amplifier. Marcus Chen, by authority of the Zarian Syndicate, you are harboring stolen property. Release the Altarian subjects Zara and Kaya immediately, and no charges will be filed against you. Marcus keyed the external comm, his voice carrying absolute conviction across the wasteland. Those aren't property. They're my family, and you're trespassing on private land. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Through the reinforced windows, he watched the enforcement team exchange glances. They'd clearly expected a simple pickup operation, not armed resistance from a determined colonist. Sir, we have legal documentation proving ownership of the subjects. Don't make this more difficult than necessary. Your documentation can join. You in hell, Marcus replied, his finger hovering over the defensive system's activation switch. Behind him, Zara moved to the secondary weapons locker, her face set in lines of determined fury. If we're doing this, we do it together, she said, checking the charge on a plasma rifle. I won't let them take Kaya without a fight. The standoff stretched for tense minutes before the enforcement team made their move, advancing on the shelter. With professional caution, Marcus triggered the perimeter defenses, watching with satisfaction as electromagnetic pulses disabled two of their vehicles and sent the advancing soldiers scrambling for cover. The battle that followed was brief, but intense. Marcus's years of preparation and Zara's technical expertise proved formidable against opponents who'd expected easy compliance. When the smoke cleared, the enforcement team was retreating in their remaining functional vehicle, leaving behind enough equipment to suggest they wouldn't be eager to return soon in the aftermath. As they held each other and comforted a shaken Kaya, Marcus felt something profound settle into place. They'd defended their home together, fought as a family against those who would tear them apart. Whatever legal challenges lay ahead, whatever bureaucratic battles they'd face, they'd proven something important to themselves and each other. So what happens now? Zara asked as they watched the dust clouds of their defeated enemies disappear toward the horizon. Marcus pulled both his girls closer, feeling the solid weight of their trust and love. Now we build something worth protecting. We make this place not just a shelter, but a real home. We raise Kaya to be strong and free, and we show the galaxy that chosen families can be just as powerful as any syndicate or corporation. Zara smiled, the expression radiant with hope and determination.
Right.
Like the sound of that plan, as the twin suns set over Zarian 7. Painting the wasteland in shades of gold and crimson, the small family stood together in their sanctuary. No longer refugees or survivors, but pioneers of their own destiny. In choosing to fight for each other, they discovered that mercy could indeed bloom in the harshest wastelands, creating beauty and strength from the most unlikely seeds.